Hello everyone, Jessie here. Thank you for joining us today. The following is the first video in our educational installment series for blind horse owners. The question we asked our group members and answered ourselves in this video is, what behavioral changes did you see when your horse is going blind, and what did you do to help your horse transition? This video is set up a bit like a podcast, so if you want to watch, great, but if not, you can just roll on with the audio and enjoy going on about your day. Thanks!
Hello everyone, I'm Jessie.
I'm Lindsay, and we're the founders of the Blind Horse Foundation.
So we asked some of our members what they experienced and what worked for them, and we're going to share it with you today. And then at the end, Lindsay and I will share some of our experiences too with our blind horses.
All right, so our first member is Danielle Moorman from the Netherlands. And she says, here's my story about my Appaloosa Troy with dormant moon blindness, uveitis. Troy is a large leopard-spotted Appaloosa, 1.7 meters tall. His mother was a KWPN mare in chestnut color. His father was a Paloosa Cumbernice, a black leopard-spotted stallion, and Cumbernice's sire was Gibaldi, the well-known black dressage stallion in the Netherlands. There is quite a bit of solid color in Troy's bloodline, so I was very shocked when we received the diagnosis. I never noticed right away how Troy was going blind. I am someone who does the same thing every day in the same order. Very predictable for your animal and also for Troy. It was only when Troy's eye became visibly inflamed with streaks of fluid that wouldn't go away that I became worried about possible damage. At the clinic, examiners were done, and we were told that the eye was beyond saving and needed to be removed to relieve the pain. His other eye was mildly affected, but with medication, I could manage quite far. After about 1.5 years, we decided to place a type of implant in the eye that would release medication continuously. But first, we wanted to see how things were. Then I received terrible news. Troy was also blind in that eye. But I immediately made the decision to also remove that eye. I still maintain that he can still see something. The only behavioral change I noticed was that when he came to his water trough, he would snort loudly. Otherwise, we went out together without me knowing he was blind. I have posts in the pasture with wire fencing, and I have baking tape on the posts. He knows exactly where he can and cannot walk. In the stable, you hardly notice anything. He knows his routine perfectly and acts like nothing is wrong. We have been together for 20 years. We know each other inside and out. I'm glad that he is doing well, and we will see what the future brings us. So you could also follow Troy and Danielle's journey on TikTok at the tag at Blondie Troy.
Nice, that's really interesting, and honestly, it's so cool that she barely noticed anything. Since her and her horse have been together for 20 years, I wonder if that played a larger factor in her and her horse having, an easier time transitioning along with her routine that she does every day.
Yeah, I could see that where you wouldn't even notice because he's expecting the same kind of treatment or companionship and everything runs smoothly. So why would you notice a change? I didn't notice with Marley right away when his blindness started affecting him. It was like big things that would happen every once in a while that I started to question things, and then looking up researching Appaloosas and finding out that uveitis is common in their breed, and then just slowly watching him adjust to the degradation of his vision.
Yeah, and then the water thing was interesting for me too, because that was actually how we learned that how we learned that Blink was blind, because he didn't act it at all when I first got him. For whatever reason, miscommunication, whatever, we were told that he was half blind, couldn't see that well out of that eye. Brought him home and he acted normal. I put him straight in with my other sighted horse, which my other sighted horse is a pretty spirited red sorrel horse that I've had for 17 years now. And they just kind of immediately became friends. I didn't notice anything was off at all.
it took us 2 weeks to realize that Blink was sucking at the air before his lips would ever touch the water when he went to the trough.
Oh,
So there was nothing. We didn't notice any. I thought he was half blind. So
yeah.
yeah. So it was interesting. Okay. All right. So then Jennifer Hamby said this. When her Junie started losing vision, she had no idea at first. They were having issues with the basic things: tying, saddling, farrier, fly spray, those types of things. Jennifer says she did all those things perfectly when she first got her. Junie would pull back when tied, so Jennifer then taught her to ground tie. Junie was horrible for the farrier, like started being terrible for the farrier, and then started throwing shoes constantly. So then Jennifer transitioned her to barefoot, which took a year. Junie had to wear easy boots while her feet toughened up. And then Junie slowly started to get better with the fly spray. Jennifer says that Junie still shakes a little bit when she gets saddled, but she also said that it's probably because she just doesn't ride her as much as she should. But Jennifer says that the more she rides and saddles her, the better her horse gets. Interesting thing at the end too, so Jennifer added that she also bought a lighter saddle, which also seemed to help her horse Junie.
All right, this submission is from Judy from Indiana. For weeks, my mare would stand beside the shelter with a nucleated eye nearest the wall. She was reluctant to move away from her safe spot. We started voice commands right away. It took her a while to trust the cues, but now she knows to step over something like a ground pull, over. We do down for stepping down or downward slopes. Wall meant she was heading towards a barrier. She enjoys groundwork with me. She trusts me to keep her safe. She can trot without having to worry, and she really enjoys that. Thank you, Judy.
Yeah. Thanks, Judy. Okay, so we have one more. So Lou from Les Haven Ranch. I think they're in Montana, right?
Yeah. St. Ignatius, if I'm saying that properly.
Yeah. So, yep. So Lou from Les Haven Ranch in Montana actually responded to this question now as well to help us out. So she says, here's my response to the question. One of the behavioral changes that is evident in a horse going blind is their change in confidence. Respectfully, when your sight is changing, you are experiencing a new way of life. You wouldn't be confident in this new dark world because confidence takes experience, and that experience takes time. The changes I have made to help them with this adjustment is by being confident myself and being patient. Treating the horses, though, that what they are going through is completely normal, even though it's not. Yet having the patience to allow them to process what they are going through alongside with my support and guidance. Horses sense our fear, anxiety, and uncertainty. Blind, they sense it even more. I truly believe that if I stay confident, they will be confident. However, again, confidence takes time and experience. And because I have 15 years and 20 plus blind horse experience, my goal is to share that experience and confidence with many of you to help with making this adjustment easier for you and your horse. So thank you, Lou, for sharing that. That was pretty awesome. And then say goodbye to the camera, Blink. I know, you're so much cuter than me. But
Bye, Blake.
That's my boy. Mr. Blink.
He's like, just make it all about me.
Oh, he'd be perfect. He's the star of everything anyways.
All right. So Marley, he went blind. He was working on going blind for a long time. It wasn't until he actually was showing a lot of the big sides that he was going blind that I started looking back at things he was doing to prepare himself. We lived in Central Oregon and we had just dry lot, and he would dig the rocks out of the ground and move them over to the fence line. And I thought this was just an entertainment thing. He was bored. It wasn't until later I realized that he was moving them over to the fence line to give him some some kind of sign, something he could hit at night so he knew where the fence was. Our mares were
Hmm.
always like pushing him through the fence. They would scare him through the fence at night. And luckily, our property was cross fenced, so he couldn't really go anywhere. But there was one instant that the mares like took off down the road to go see a stallion. We didn't find him till the next morning, but they left him behind because he couldn't keep up. He couldn't see at night. But yeah, he would do those types of things. He never had an issue with water. He could smell it and locate it where it was. At night, he would always plant himself in one spot in the pasture to sleep, like the farthest point in the pasture. And if I needed to bring him in for a storm, unless I got him before it got dark, I wasn't going to move him. He was planted there. And it was he did
Okay.
it for his own safety. But his was gradual. It took probably 10 years for him to actually really show the symptoms that he was going blind.
Hmm.
Yeah. But it's interesting because of how Lou said about the confidence. He lost a lot of confidence, but as he started learning to do things like the voice commands and our writing, we didn't actually start really writing and trail writing until after he went blind because he was untrainable because of his fear of the world. He was really spooky, and he just like slighted. He is very claustrophobic too. So getting in a
Hmm.
trailer, being in a stall, anything that was just the cinch around his girth when we tried to saddle train him, he just could not get over it until he started going blind and he started seeing security in those things. He picked the chicken. It's funny. So I just had just the one half of the barn open for the horses when we moved to our newest property, and he would break into the opposite side of the barn that I had the chicken coop, and he would just hang out in there, and I ended up having to just give him that stall, which has the tiniest little like human sized door to get in it. And he's like, this is my stall, so I had to convert it over to his stall, and he liked the safety of the small enclosed space. And
Well,
he
that's
got
really
over
interesting.
yeah, he got over his trailering to the point where he self-loaded himself into the trailer because he loved going places after he went blind. That was how he saw the world. He wasn't spooky anymore. He became the lead horse on our trail rides because nothing scared him. And he just grew. It's kind of funny that all of us, my whole family, everybody that actually got to know him throughout all of these years, his blindness made him full. It opened him up to the world that he was afraid to be in.
That's so beautiful. Rest in peace, Marley. That was so beautiful. So what do you see in your other blind horse Wonder? Like what are some similarities and differences between Marley and Wonder?
Wonder was born blind. We don't know if it's genetic or if it's just the result of his mom being starved when she was pregnant with him. So he came out deformed. And he has a really deformed little eye, which we're all pretty sure he can see out of, like a little bit. And then he has the full developed eye, but he has a cataract haze that's been spreading. And he will eventually be probably blind in that eye completely.
Mm-hmm.
Um, for being born this way, he is pretty well developed in how to function in the world. He doesn't know he has a disability at all. because he thinks this is how everybody is in his world. You know, everybody's vision is like this. The other horses. He does have some things that have delayed him in development. He took years for him to figure out to graze on grass. I don't know if that's just him in particularly, or it's a flaw that he was not able to learn from from his
Mm-hmm.
mom. He also doesn't know how to roll. He can see the other horses doing it, but he can't comprehend that he's supposed to do it too. So we're actually, me and Kay are trying to figure out right now, how to deal with that problem, because they need to be able to roll to remove or spread out the sebum that horses secrete in their hair. And since he doesn't do that, it creates a skin problem on his back.
Oh,
Yeah, because of the buildup. So he has really bad dandruff. And
okay.
me and Kay were discussing this just recently because summer, horses roll to be able to move that around on their coats, and he doesn't do it. So it just builds up and builds up and builds up. And so we were like, do we just go out there and like throw dirt on him and rub it in? How are we supposed to
Yeah.
help him with this,
Yeah. Does brushing
Um,
not take care of the problem then?
it doesn't. It just like flakes off.
Mm.
I'll have to like do a video on it because maybe somebody else out there has seen this and they can help. I've looked on the internet to try and find things. I can't find any resources to help me or any like products I can get. And so maybe somebody out there that sees the videos like, here, this is the solution, use this. Because I am open to it. Let's
Chloe?
see. Like really, he's a normal horse other than, he has a hard time with space, personal space. He doesn't know where, if you're on this blind side, he will swing his head and hit you if you aren't paying attention, because he doesn't know you're there unless you're making contact with him. He wasn't taught respect by his mom because again, he didn't get those developmental milestones from being raised by his mom. I don't know what the circumstances were from when he was born. He was a surprise baby from a feedlot mare. And from what I understood from the previous owner is she separated him immediately from his mom because I'm assuming she thought that it was too dangerous for him. And so, yeah. He missed out a lot of developmental things that he would have been taught by his mom. And our other
Mhm.
mares, they can't teach him that because it's past that, that window.
Yeah.
So, but I
And
mean,
for many,
he's getting there, We work with him. He's actually improved over the last year with personal space. And it just takes a little longer to work with him, for him to actually have an understanding of what you're trying to teach him.
yeah.
A lot of patience. You gotta have a lot of patience.
Isn't that something in general we should have as horse people anyways? Most don't. We live in an Insta-fix world.
Yep.
The next gadget, the next instant fix.
Yep.
Okay. So first off, is that all you had to say, Lindsay?
Unless you have more questions, I can't think of anything. I don't want to like put all the story out because we won't have more videos.
Yep, fair enough. So I guess I'll share so I actually specialized in training blind horses before I went through a different segment in my life, of which kind of forced my attention the past couple of years. So I'm just going to focus on my two personal blind horses and answering this question, and then just kind of give more of a generic thing for the horses that I've trained as well. So I think patience is a really good thing to bounce off of and start off with that, because blind horses in general, especially if you want them trained, like it takes a lot longer. A lot like what Lou said, like every time something like their vision changes a little bit, then all of a sudden they have to learn their whole world all over again. Okay, so going back to that, so patience is really important in particular. So back when I was regularly training horses that were blind, usually they were sent to me in the middle of transition. So some of the things that I did to help them was I put them in a predictable space and kept their main things, their food, their water, their shelter, like all of that was in like the same spot for them while they were transitioning. And then I'd watch out for behavioral changes, that type of a thing. Some horses could work while they were transitioning. Some horses, it was just too much for them to try to learn how to like be restarted under saddle or be started under saddle for the first time while they were also trying to figure out how to navigate the world around them as their vision deteriorated. So sometimes the best thing for them was just to be in a paddock on rest until their vision settled. And then we do a little bit of training. And then if it flared up again, then for some of those horses, it would be, well, let's put you back in your safe space, let you figure out the world a little bit more, and then bring you back into a training routine that is still really consistent and predictable for you so that you can find confidence in what we're doing. When I first started out, I got Blink, and Blink is my little, technically he's a sorrel blanketed Appaloosa, but he's faded out. He's 20 now, so he looks like a leopard Appaloosa. So when I first got him, there was some kind of miscommunication that went on about his vision. I thought he was only half blind coming home, but me and my husband at the time, we didn't notice anything for literally 2 weeks. We brought him home, we put him in with my other horse, and he acted like a normal horse, and he found the hay just fine. He squealed, he protected his space just fine. He was moving around maybe a little bit more slowly, but I thought that was just his personality. And then 2 weeks in, we noticed that he was sucking at the air before his lips ever like touched the water to the water tank. Granted, it was a busy 2 weeks. We would have noticed it a little bit sooner, but we were a little bit busy. Stuff happens. But yeah, so Blink was only halter trained when he came to me. And shortly after that, my other horse, who was my main working horse at the time, got navicular. And then he was diagnosed with side bone as well in the front and arthritis in the back. So that ended my main horse's career, and he's currently retired and on pain management, and doing really well on it actually. But so then I looked over at Blink, and for the first time that was kind of how that all got started. So Blink had been started under saddle, had only been a halter horse and got stud for 12 years, after which he got his balls chopped off, and then he was on kind of, his owner was looking for a new home for him. So with that, I did everything differently. Like I thought through every little step to start him under saddle. I used vocal cues a lot. One of the things that we ran into with Blink was balance issues. When I started putting him on the lunge line to do the lunge work, he would get dizzy. So then what I did with that is I backed off. Instead of trotting circles, we would start with, okay, can you walk like 5 circles? And then also incorporated and taught him the vocal cues far and near. So like when he came too close to me, I would say far and touch his shoulder with the whip. And then he would, building off of what I had taught him, which was shoulder yielding, outside of a lunge line. He then understood the pressure from there. It was a lot easier for him to understand what I was asking, and then he'd move out to the end of the line again. And from there, I was able to kind of teach him the pattern of how big circle is. And he also used the lunge line as kind of
it helped him if I kept the lunge line taut. Like there was no slack in the lunge line when we are lunging. At least not until he was used to it. And then I was able to be a little bit more, hey, can you be a little bit more independent off of this line while we're lunging? Can you find that circle without me having to have constant pressure on the line and hold your hand, so to speak, the whole time? And then that built into him carrying himself at the trot and the canter as well. It was all just very slow and very progressive. And when it came to mounting him at the first time, I now know differently that it's better to go back, in my opinion anyways, and do more long lining before you hop on their back so that they understand steering a little bit more, and then also make sure that all of your holes are kind of filled confidence-wise for you. But, you know, it's been 8 years. So back then I didn't know as much. So when I first got on Blink, I got him in an open space, thinking that if he bolted, if he did any of that, which now I prepare for quite differently, he wouldn't run into any fences. Now the goal is to make it so that they always feel confident through the process so that that never happens. But at that time I was like, well, you know, it's normal for a horse to throw a couple bucks here and there kind of thing. Very different viewpoint. You grow throughout the years. But yeah, so Blink, one of the interesting things about him is he can manage on his own just fine in the paddock for the most part. When he wants attention, because I know he knows where his water is. I know he knows where his water is, but if he wants attention, he'll pretend not to know where the water is. And he's really silly personality-wise, because when he doesn't want somebody to ride him, he will lay down, which is not something I taught him. He's just like, I'm dead. I'm flat out on the ground. I have clips of him like laying down, flat down, acting like he's dead. It's really funny. But he does that too when I don't pay enough attention to him in the paddock. He's learned that if he lays down for longer periods of time, I'll go over and be like, hey, are you okay? And then he gets pets and stuff. So he just does that when he wants attention. And the funny thing is he knows I'm around when he does it. So like he'll do it when I'm around, like working around the area. Usually I'll have like music on or something, which is another thing too with blind horses. In order to teach them where you are, if you don't want to be talking all the time, having some music on your phone or something that they can like recognize helps a lot for them to be locate where you are.
Yeah, I did that with sorry, I don't mean I want to bump, you know. I did that with Marley. Like whenever I was doing anything with him, I had my little freaking speaker attached to my pants and I always had music playing. And it's kind of peculiar. Like I've realized that, I mean, I don't do it with Wonder because he knows where I am. And I figured I would do it with my new horse Lux, and I keep like having to remind myself, like, why don't you have the music on? I kind of feel like that was a like only a me and Marley thing, and that's why I've stopped, and it's kind of sad.
Yeah. Well, I know Marley's waiting for you in heaven, girlfriend. You guys will be together in the end.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
for
just
sure.
like 100%. So, I also had an off-the-track thoroughbred named Jay. And he was 18 hands tall, so he was like 6 feet at the shoulder and really big. And he was just a giant handful from the start, but he was tall, dark, and incredibly handsome. So I just couldn't say no, even though I had no business having a horse at that point, because I had like having a horse that was that, like that would need that much work. Because he had a crazy amount of anxiety, like just chronic anxiety from the moment that I went to go see him. His owner couldn't even saddle him, could barely catch him. And all I saw was how magnificent he looked in the sun.
Yeah. That's all that matters.
Saw was that black beauty, the black stallion.
Yep.
He's big, black, and gorgeous, and that's all I saw. So brought him home, and Jay needed a year and a half of being in a pretty stable environment, of seeing me every day.
before he was ready for any kind of work whatsoever. Within that time, I did try to take him out several times and try to start work, but he would get way too like anxious and fractious and panicky. And that was when I realized when I brought him home, he wasn't just completely blind, he was still transitioning, like he was losing more of his eyesight. And it took him a year and a half to like finally start like settling. And then he turned from a really anxious horse to a really goofy, confident horse with still a little bit of anxiety on the side, but it wasn't like as bad. Like I didn't see nearly as much teeth grinding, etc. I was able to work with him on and off, etc. Unfortunately, I realized that he was showing symptoms of like kissing spine because he was really like showing a lot of discomfort under the saddle when I would get on him. Like he'd throw his head like a ton, and I knew it wasn't the bridle because I wasn't putting any pressure on the reins, and he just didn't seem to be able to settle. Wasn't able to like soften under saddle. And then after that, his health kind of started to deteriorate. So I didn't really have a whole lot of chance to work with Mach-E, but I did get a chance to bond with him a bit over the 2-3 years I had him. Just non-work bonding because of that. But that's an example of a horse that really needed, like, you know, all of the patience, right? Like that's when you kind of look at it and you go, well, what kind of morals do you have as a horse owner? Are you going to throw out the horse because you have to wait for them to adjust? Or are you going to give them the time they need? Yeah. And that goes back to how we treat people as well. Do we treat people that need help as an inconvenience, or are we patient with them and wait for them to be able to adjust, to be able to learn? Which is fun. I now work with the disabled, so that's all fun stuff. And then after Jay ended up having to be euthanized because he had problems with his teeth that couldn't be solved. I had several equine dentistry specialists come over and several appointments, and they all just said the same thing, that there was nothing that they can really do and that he'd eventually not be able to eat, and he was too big of a horse for me to be able to financially get him mash every day. And not only that, but he would have to eat so slowly, I wasn't even sure if he could get enough mash in. Even if it was soaked, he so slowly, like with how big he was, and the fact that he was also a thoroughbred, which is basically the greyhound of horses. Like he needed double what a horse his size would normally need in order to stay fit and have the proper conditioning. And I wasn't going to risk like colic and all that other jazz by starting to throw a bunch of sugar in the food and all that other stuff. So it was a tough decision, but I ended up euthanizing Jay for his own welfare, at least. It took me too long to come around to that idea. I was a little bit blind to it and I didn't want to look at it. Because I loved him at that point. Like I loved the goofy goof.
Yeah.
So, which is selfish of me. But after Jay, I got Brooke from Be the Change Rescue ended up bringing Maylin to me, and when she first got here, she was pretty unconfident. She didn't want to walk forward like on the lead. Like she'd walk a couple of steps and then she'd stop and plant. She was very clingy to the other horses. But over the past year, she's really kind of blossomed. I realized shortly after I got her that she also was transitioning because she came to a point where she was calm, and then she started getting spooky again. And one of the main things that had her old owner surrender her was that the trainer said that she was too spooky to be safe. So, safe for the owner anyways. So when I got her to a point where she was like confident in her groundwork, and then all of a sudden she started acting up again, and I noticed that her eyes were like bluing over more in different degrees. Like they have like a little bit of a blue sheen over. There wasn't any inflammation, mind you, they were just bluing over. So no drainage, no inflammation, just bluing over, and then with the behavioral changes. So I decided to put her in the paddock with Blink until Blink was hospitalized, but that's another story. But she was put in a consistent environment for about 6, 7 months. And when she came out of that, she was much more confident again, much more ready to work. And now she is sassy, sassy princess. She bosses Blink around. She is just the queen of the paddock between Blink and her, and it is the cutest thing ever. Um, yeah, so that's what I've got there. Mei Lin and I have started our riding journey, and I'm really excited about it. Unfortunately, I now have some medical issues that may prevent me from riding, of course, for a little while, but riding seriously outside of just the training horse that I have. But yeah, so that's what I have. Anything you have to add, Lindsay?
I mean, I want to touch base again on the patients. If it takes a while for them to transition, it's gonna, you just, I don't know how, you might have to cut this.
Go for it. Go for it. Go for it.
I want to touch base on the patience part. It can take a long time for the horses to go through the transition when they go blind. Like, people don't realize it. It's not an instant. Marley was a couple of years, and it didn't start getting worse until like the end, when he was in pain and actually noticeable that he was going blind. It started a long time before that. And but like I was saying, we were blessed, we were able to train him in that process, but that was the only reason we were able to train him to be a riding horse, because he was just so scared of everything. And there was times where we were on the trail where he could still see, and I would blindfold him just to be able to cross shadows. And I don't really regret it. I don't feel like I did a bad thing in doing that to him, but I think my actions helped him get through his transition and realize that you got to work through this. We got to get through it, and so, but if it takes your horse a year and a half, 2 years, 3 years to get used to being okay being blind, what's the hurry?
I agree. After that, most horses at that point, most people buy horses when they're like between 7 and 12 years old. If they're really ambitious, they'll buy them younger than that. But at the end of the day, even if your horse is 20, you might have a whole 10, 12 years left. So
yeah,
worth it every time.
Marley ended up being older than I thought he was, and we had probably 3-4 years of good riding after his blindness. I wouldn't change it for the world. I wouldn't. I learned so much from him that there's no way I would change a thing. And I would wait for him again. If I knew this was out the road we went down, I would have done it all over again, because it was worth it, and they surprise you.
That's so magnificent. That's so beautiful, Lindsay. That's so beautiful. Okay,
and let me tell you about my newest horse.
Ooh, do so.
So I wasn't going to get a horse for quite a while after I lost Marley. But after a couple months, it was just eating me alive that I didn't have my own horse, my own partner again. So I went on the BLM website and started looking at horses that were going to be on the auction. And this one just spoke to me. And my conscience, I guess, that the good and the bad, why pick this one? Why pick this one? He's a Cremello. He has pink skin and blue eyes.
Because he's pretty. Because he's pretty.
And yeah, exactly. He's he's perfect. I had fear I wasn't going to win him in the auction because he was so adorably cute and he stood out. And that wasn't, I don't know what it was about him, but something just told me you need to get him. And I'm like, oh, he's not an Appaloosa. What could go wrong? He's not an Appaloosa. Won the auction. I bring him home, and after a week, after he fully shed out his winter and baby coat, he had spots.
Gosh, that's great. That's
And,
great.
yep. So I'm like, all right, well, just accept it. You'll always have an Appaloosa in your life, Lindsay. He just had his vet check up so we can finish the titling process. And my vet is like, you keep that mask on him every day. You gotta protect those little pink eyelids. And I do every morning. First thing, he comes in. I've already trained him. He's ready for it. He holds his head back, ears in position while I swoop that fly mask over his head.
Good boy. I'm so happy for you and Lux.
But inevitably, he may go blind, and it's just a fact I got to accept. I honestly, since I started training him, I don't train him any differently than I trained Marley. Like, I'm not, it's weird, and it's been so peculiar how easily he has been trained for being a horse that has not been touched before I got him. He's just, and I'm kind of questioning, am I just good trainer, or is he just an anomaly? I think he's an anomaly. I'm not. I don't have that big of an ego. But yeah, I've just been training him exactly the way I trained Marley, who was blind. I'm terrible at like hand signals and groundwork, so I'm just talking to him, and he'll be ready when he does, if he ever does eventually go blind, he'll be ready because that's how I trained him as a blind horse.
Perfect. That works anyways. If it works for you guys,
Yep.
it's beautiful. All right. Well, I think I'm ready to kind of wrap up if you are, Lindsay.
Yep. I want you to, yeah, we'll finish this video.
Okay. Sounds good. Well, thanks everybody for listening, and thanks to everyone that submitted responses to this question. If you guys have any more discussion to have, we would love to hear your comments, your questions down in the comment section below. If you guys want to subscribe to our channel, that would be fabulous too. Otherwise, our support group is called Blind Horse Foundation on Facebook. You can find us pretty easily there. Just shoot either me or Lindsay a message. You can join pretty easily, or post on the group itself. And if you want to be let into our little chat group, which we have going on as a community support thingamabob, I'm done being professional here. We have a community support chat thingamabob where we have a bunch of people that have blind horses and have gone through this. And we're all in one chat together. If you guys would like to be added to that, just shoot me and Lindsay a text and we'll be happy to let you join. But otherwise, have a lovely day, everyone.
Bye.